The soft glow of the hospital room lamp flickered as Genevieve stirred from uneasy sleep. Her body ached, her burns still raw, and her heart heavy with the memory of almost losing her baby. But when she opened her eyes, she was startled to see Nathan sitting in the chair beside her bed. A bouquet of white roses lay on the table, their sweet scent filling the room. "Nathan?" she whispered hoarsely, uncertain if she was dreaming. He looked up with a carefully crafted expression of concern. "You scared me, Genevieve. When they told me you were rushed here, I thought—" He trailed off, reaching to gently squeeze her hand. "I thought I might lose you." For a moment, the words pierced through her defenses. She wanted to believe him, wanted to cling to the memory of the man she had once loved. But deep down, she knew better. She forced herself to stay calm, watching him closely. "You need to rest," Nathan continued, his voice soothing, almost rehearsed. "I've spoken to the doctors. They say you'll recover fully if you take care of yourself. And I'll help you. No more stress, no more fighting." The gentleness in his tone was disarming, but Genevieve saw the truth flicker in his eyes. This wasn't love. It was control. "Then stop pushing me to sign those papers," she said quietly. Nathan chuckled, shaking his head as though she were a stubborn child. "Genevieve, you misunderstand me. I only want what's best for you, and for our baby. Once you sign, you'll have financial security. A new house, monthly support, everything you could possibly need. You won't have to worry about a thing." Her stomach twisted. The promise sounded like a lifeline, but she knew it was a trap. His version of security meant exile, silence, and dependence. He wanted her out of the way so he could parade Sienna openly without consequence. As if on cue, Nathan's phone buzzed on the table. A message flashed briefly across the screen before he snatched it up. "Can't wait to see you tonight." Genevieve's heart sank. So this was his concern. A performance, a show for appearances, while his mistress awaited him in the shadows. Nathan quickly pocketed the phone, pretending not to notice her glance. "All you have to do is trust me," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Everything will be easier once you sign." Genevieve pulled her hand away. Her voice trembled, but it was firm. "No, I won't." For a split second, his mask slipped. His eyes hardened, his jaw clenched. Then, just as quickly, the charming facade returned. "You need more time," he said smoothly, standing up. "I understand, but don't push me too far, Genevieve. You won't like the consequences." He kissed her forehead, a gesture so false it made her shudder, then left the room. The door clicked shut, and she exhaled a shaky breath, clutching her belly protectively. Her pulse raced. She couldn't endure his mind games any longer. His sweetness was poison, his promises lies. If she didn't act soon, she might not live to see her child born. She reached for the business card tucked into her handbag, the one Amelia had slipped to her at the gala. Her fingers brushed over the embossed letters. Amelia Reed, attorney at law. With her heart pounding, Genevieve knew it was time to make the call that could change everything. But she had no idea just how dangerous the fallout would be. The sterile quiet of the hospital was broken only by the rhythmic hum of machines, but Genevieve's mind was far from calm. She stared at Amelia Reed's business card clutched in her hand, her thumb tracing the raised letters. It was more than ink on paper. It was a chance. A chance to stop hiding, to fight back, to protect her baby from Nathan's cruelty. The next morning she called Amelia. Her voice was shaky but resolute. "I need your help," she whispered. Within hours, Amelia was at her side. Time hadn't dulled her presence. Amelia was sharp, confident, with eyes that missed nothing. "I suspected something was wrong the moment I saw you at the gala," she said gently, placing her hand over Genevieve's. "Nathan Harrington may be powerful, but he isn't untouchable. If we're going to win, we need proof. Real proof." Genevieve swallowed hard. Proofs. That meant peeling back the curtains on years of pain, exposing what she had spent so long hiding. But she nodded. "I'll get it." Days later, she returned to the Harrington villa. Nathan had grown distant again, spending more time at meetings that were clearly rendezvous with Sienna. His absence gave her space, but also a dangerous opportunity. She started small. Late at night, when the house staff had gone, she searched Nathan's study. Drawers locked with precision, files stacked in neat piles. After years of playing the role of obedient wife, she knew his habits. She found a hidden compartment behind the liquor cabinet and discovered documents, bank transfers, offshore accounts, even records of payments made to silence former employees. Her hands trembled as she photographed every page with a hidden camera Amelia had given her. Each click of the shutter felt like a gunshot in the stillness of the study. But the riskiest move came when she placed a tiny voice recorder under Nathan's desk. Amelia's plan was clear: catch him admitting to the abuse, the threats, and the financial crimes that could end his empire. That night, Nathan returned earlier than expected. Genevieve's heart nearly stopped as she heard the heavy slam of the front door. She hurriedly shut the drawer, shoving the recorder into place just as his footsteps echoed down the hall. "Genevieve?" His voice was sharp, suspicious. "What are you doing in here?" Her breath caught. She forced a smile, clutching her stomach. I couldn't sleep. I wanted to tidy your study." He narrowed his eyes, stepping closer. For a long moment, the tension was unbearable. Then he smirked, brushing past her to pour himself a drink. "Always playing the dutiful wife. Maybe you're finally learning." She exhaled slowly, her pulse pounding in her ears. He hadn't discovered anything yet. The next morning, Nathan held a conference call in his study. Genevieve lingered upstairs, her heart racing as the recorder silently captured every word. She prayed he would slip, reveal something she could use. Hours later, when he left for a meeting, she rushed in to retrieve the device. Hands trembling, she played back the audio. And there it was, Nathan's voice, dripping with arrogance. "She'll sign eventually. If not, I'll make sure she regrets it. No one will believe her anyway. They never do. And as for the money, don't worry, it's already safe offshore." Genevieve covered her mouth, tears filling her eyes. It was exactly what they needed. Proof of threats, proof of financial crimes, proof that could bring him down. But as she copied the recording to her phone, she froze. From the doorway, a shadow fell across the room, and when she turned, she saw Sienna standing there, smiling wickedly, holding her own phone raised, recording everything. Genevieve froze, the small recorder clutched in her hand. The evidence she had risked everything to collect now felt useless as Sienna leaned against the doorway, recording with her own phone. Well, Sienna purred, her crimson lips curling into a smug smile. "The poor little wife finally grows a backbone. Too bad it's too late." Genevieve's heart pounded. "Delete that," she whispered, though her voice was shaky. Sienna laughed, the sound sharp and cruel. "Why would I? This is perfect. Nathan will love it. Proof you're snooping in his office, stealing his files. Do you know what happens when a billionaire's wife betrays him? You don't walk away with sympathy, you walk away in ruins." Genevieve's fingers tightened around the recorder. "You don't understand. Nathan is dangerous. He nearly killed me, Sienna. He could have killed our baby." For a moment, Sienna's smirk faltered, but then she recovered, her eyes gleaming with ambition. "That's not my problem. Nathan gives me the life I deserve, and if stepping on you is what it takes, then so be it." Genevieve's stomach churned. She realized then that Sienna wasn't just Nate's mistress, she was his accomplice. Just as Sienna raised her phone higher, a voice cut through the tension. "Actually, it is your problem." Both women turned. Amelia Reed stood at the threshold, calm yet commanding, her tailored suit crisp, her eyes sharp as steel. Sienna stiffened. "Who the hell are you?" Amelia stepped forward, her voice steady. "I'm Genevieve's attorney, and you've just illegally recorded a private conversation in this home. You may want to think twice before waving that around." The color drained from Sienna's face for a fraction of a second before she scoffed. "So she ran crying to a lawyer. Cute. Do you really think anyone's going to take her side over Nathan's? He owns this city. He owns the judges. He owns the headlines." Amelia didn't flinch. "What Nathan owns is irrelevant. The law doesn't bend as far as he thinks it does, and I promise you, if that video leaves your phone, you'll be facing charges before you can blink." Sienna's grip on her phone wavered. She wasn't used to being challenged, especially not by someone who exuded the kind of authority Amelia carried effortlessly. Genevieve felt a flicker of hope. For the first time in years, she wasn't standing alone. Sienna finally lowered the phone, her expression icy. "This isn't over. You think you're clever, but Nathan will crush both of you, and when he does, I'll be right there beside him." She slipped past them, her heels clicking against the marble floor as she stormed out of the study. The room fell silent. Genevieve sagged against the desk, clutching her belly. Amelia, you saved me. Amelia rested a hand on her shoulder. No, Genevieve, you saved yourself by deciding to fight. I'm just here to make sure you win. Tears blurred Genevieve's vision. I don't know if I can. Every time I think I'm safe, Nathan finds another way to trap me. Amelia's gaze softened, but her words were firm. You can. You have something powerful now, proof, and soon we'll have more. But you need to be ready, because Nathan will sense that the balance is shifting. And when men like him feel power slipping through their fingers, they become desperate. Genevieve shivered. She knew Amelia was right. Nathan wouldn't sit idle once he realized she was no longer the silent wife. He would fight back, and he would fight dirty. And neither of them knew that Nathan, listening from the shadows of the hallway, had heard everything. Nathan's footsteps were silent as he retreated from the hallway. Every muscle in his body was coiled with rage. He had just heard everything. Genevieve's defiance, Amelia's interference, the whisper of rebellion brewing right under his roof. His jaw clenched as he stepped into the garage, where Sienna was waiting, pacing like a caged predator. She has a lawyer, Sienna spat, her eyes flashing. Do you realize what that means? She's going to fight you, Nathan. Nathan poured himself a glass of whiskey, his movements deliberate, controlled. Then let her fight. She has no idea what she's up against. Sienna crossed her arms, her voice dripping with venom. You underestimate her. That lawyer, Amelia Reed. She's smart, sharp. If they gather enough evidence, they could ruin everything. We need to act now. He studied her for a long moment, then smirked. You're right. We'll make sure Genevieve never has the chance to use whatever she's gathered, and when the time comes, we'll turn her into the villain. Sienna leaned closer, intrigued. How? Nathan set his glass down and began to outline his plan. First, he would frame Genevieve as unstable. He still had influence with the press, and one well-placed article could paint her as a hysterical, paranoid wife whose pregnancy had made her irrational. He would feed reporters stories of her outbursts, plant false accounts from staff claiming she had violent mood swings, and even doctor medical reports. She'll look like a danger to herself and the baby. Nathan said coldly, no judge will trust her with custody once I'm done. Sienna's lips curled into a satisfied smile. And once she's discredited, the courts will side with you. The money, the empire, it will all be yours. Ours. But Nathan wasn't finished. He lowered his voice, his words dripping with malice. And if she insists on pushing this further, accidents happen. Stress and pregnancy don't mix well. One slip, one fall, and it's over. Sienna shivered, though not from fear. She thrived on the cruelty, the power. You're ruthless, she whispered almost admiringly. He leaned back, sipping his drink. That's why I win. The next day, the smear campaign began. Gossip columns published blind items about a billionaire's pregnant wife who had grown erratic and unstable. Paparazzi conveniently caught Genevieve looking pale and shaken outside her doctor's appointment. Online forums buzzed with speculation, fueled by whispers planted by Nathan's PR team. Genevieve, reading the headlines, felt her stomach twist with dread. Amelia warned her, "This is classic. He's building a narrative to destroy you in court. But don't worry, we'll fight lies with truth." Still, the damage was brutal. Friends stopped calling, neighbors avoided eye contact, and even distant relatives began to doubt her. The isolation was suffocating. Nathan had turned her into a ghost in her own life. That night, while Nathan was working late, Sienna slipped into the villa. She found Genevieve in the nursery, folding baby clothes with trembling hands. "You really think you can win?" Sienna sneered, her voice low. "Nathan will crush you, and when he does, I'll be the one raising your child." Genevieve's breath caught, fury flaring inside her. "Over my dead body." Sienna leaned in close, her perfume cloying, her smile cruel. "Exactly." And as she left, Genevieve realized with icy clarity, Nathan's plan wasn't just to take her money or her dignity, it was to take her child. And she would have to risk everything to stop him. The villa was quiet that night, almost eerily so. Nathan was away on another business trip with Sienna, and the staff had been dismissed early. Alone in the cavernous mansion, Genevieve sat in the nursery, the faint glow of the nightlight casting soft shadows across the walls painted in pale blue. Tiny baby clothes lay folded neatly in the dresser, untouched toys stacked on the shelves. It should have been a place of hope, but instead, it felt like a tomb for dreams slipping away. She rocked slowly in the chair, one hand resting on her swollen belly. Tears slid silently down her face, soaking into the fabric of her dress. These weren't the fiery tears of anger. They were the heavy, suffocating tears of someone who had carried too much for too long. She thought of the woman she once was, confident, independent, designing interiors that breathed life into cold, empty spaces. She remembered the day she met Nathan, how his smile had seemed like sunlight breaking through clouds. She had believed in his promises, believed in their love. And now, she barely recognized herself. The smear campaign was working. Every time she opened her phone, headlines screamed about the unstable billionaire's wife. She read comments from strangers mocking her, people saying she was just another gold digger trying to trap a rich man with a baby. The cruelty of strangers cut almost as deep as Nathan's betrayal. Her reflection in the nursery mirror made her flinch. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow, dark circles etched beneath them. She whispered to herself, "Is this what I've become? A shadow?" The baby shifted within her, a soft kick against her ribs. It startled her from her despair. She placed both hands over her belly, her tears falling harder. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry I haven't been strong enough, but I promise you, I'll protect you, no matter what it takes." Still, doubt gnawed at her. What if Amelia couldn't protect her? What if Nathan's power was truly unstoppable? The thought of losing her child, of being erased from her own life, nearly broke her. Genevieve curled up in the rocking chair, her sobs muffled in the silence of the nursery. She remembered her mother's voice long ago, telling her that tears weren't weakness but release. "Cry," her mother had said. "Cry until you can breathe again." So she did. She cried until her throat was raw, until her body shook with exhaustion, until the silence that followed was almost comforting. And in that silence, something shifted. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was small, fragile, like the first spark of a flame. But it was there, a whisper inside her, steady and unyielding. "You are not broken. You are still here." She wiped her face, her eyes red but determined. She stood, cradling her belly as if holding her child closer. For the first time, she didn't just feel like a victim. She felt like a mother ready to fight. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand, breaking the stillness. It was a message from Amelia. "I've found something. Meet me tomorrow. Don't tell Nathan." Genevieve's breath caught, her pulse quickening. If Amelia had found something, it could mean hope. It could mean a way out. But what Genevieve didn't know was that Nathan already knew about the meeting, and he was planning to use it to deliver his deadliest blow yet. The following morning, the city was still wrapped in gray mist when Genevieve slipped into a quiet cafe on the Upper East Side. The bell above the door chimed softly, and she scanned the room with nervous eyes. Every shadow felt like it could be Nathan's. Every stranger's glance seemed too curious. Amelia sat near the back, her posture upright, her blazer crisp, a woman who radiated quiet authority. She waved Genevieve over, her expression calm but serious. "You look pale," Amelia said softly as Genevieve sat down. "Did Nathan hurt you again?" Genevieve shook her head, though her heart clenched at the memory of the burns, the bruises, the hospital bed. "Not last night," she whispered. "But he will. He always does." Amelia leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Then let's make sure he never gets the chance again. I've been digging." She slid a manila folder across the table. "Nathan Harrington is not just an abusive husband. He's a criminal. Offshore accounts, illegal property transfers, tax evasion. You name it, he's been doing it." Genevieve's hands trembled as she opened the folder. The documents inside were damning. Scanned bank statements, shell company records, and even a memo from one of Nathan's executives warning him of an impending audit. "How did you get these?" she asked in awe. Amelia's lips curved in the faintest smile. "I know people. Let's just say not everyone in Nathan's empire is loyal to him. Some are very eager to see him fall. But here's the catch. This alone isn't enough. We need to connect him directly to the abuse, to show that his corruption isn't just financial, it's personal, violent, and dangerous." Genevieve's throat tightened. She thought of the recorder, of Nathan's chilling words. "If not, I'll make sure she regrets it." It was still hidden in her handbag, her secret weapon. Amelia saw the flicker in her eyes. "You have something, don't you?" Slowly, Genevieve nodded and pulled out the device. She pressed play, letting Nathan's voice hiss through the tiny speaker. The venom in his tone filled the cafe, even at a low volume. Amelia's expression hardened as she listened. "This," Amelia said, her voice steady, "is gold. With this, combined with the financial evidence, we can build a case so strong even Nathan's money can't bury it. But we need to move carefully. If he suspects what we have, he'll destroy everything, including you." Genevieve's fingers tightened around her teacup. "He already suspects. Sienna saw me in his study. She knows I'm fighting back." Amelia's jaw tightened. "Then we don't have time. I'll file the preliminary motion tomorrow, but you need to be prepared. Nathan will retaliate. He'll try to scare you, humiliate you, maybe even hurt you again. You have to be stronger than you've ever been." Genevieve's eyes brimmed with tears, but she nodded. "For my child, I will be." Amelia reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "Good, because when this is over, Nathan Harrington won't just lose his money, he'll lose his freedom." For the first time in weeks, Genevieve felt a spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, she could win. But as she left the cafe, she noticed a sleek black car parked across the street. The tinted window rolled down just enough for her to glimpse a familiar, predatory smile. Nathan was watching, and he already knew more than she realized. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and expensive cologne. Reporters filled the benches, their pens poised, eager to document the downfall of a billionaire or his pregnant wife. Genevieve sat at the plaintiff's table beside Amelia, her hands trembling in her lap. She forced herself to breathe evenly, her other hand resting protectively on her belly. She couldn't let fear show, not in front of Nathan. Across the room, Nathan Harrington sat like a king on his throne. His suit was immaculate, his posture confident, his smirk infuriating. Beside him, Sienna glowed in a tailored dress, her hand resting possessively on his arm. They looked untouchable, like the perfect power couple. But Genevieve knew the rot beneath the polish. "All rise," the bailiff commanded, and Judge Thompson entered. The proceedings began. Nathan's attorney, a shark named Victor Corbin, stood first. His voice was slick, practiced, venom wrapped in velvet. "Your Honor, my client is the victim of a malicious campaign. Mrs. Harrington, though visibly pregnant, has demonstrated erratic, unstable behavior. We will provide witness testimony to confirm her volatile moods, her violent outbursts, and her neglect of her health during pregnancy." Genevieve's breath caught. Lies. Every word. But the courtroom listened, and the reporters scribbled furiously. Corbin called the first witness, a former housekeeper, now on Nathan's payroll. The woman claimed Genevieve often screamed without cause, threw objects, and endangered her unborn child. She once locked herself in the nursery for hours, crying and refusing to eat, the housekeeper said, her eyes downcast. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Genevieve's cheeks burned. She wanted to shout the truth, that her tears were silent, hidden, that her pain was never madness but survival. But Amelia's steady hand on her arm reminded her. "Stay calm. Our turn will come." Nathan's smirk widened as Corbin presented more false evidence. Doctored medical notes suggesting Genevieve had skipped prenatal appointments, gossip column clippings painting her as hysterical. The narrative was clear, she was an unfit mother. Finally, Nathan himself took the stand. He sighed heavily, the picture of a weary husband. "I've tried everything to support Genevieve, but her condition has worsened. I fear for the safety of our child. That's why I asked for separation. I only want what's best for both of them." Genevieve's hands balled into fists. Best for both of them? He had scalded her with boiling water, shoved her until she bled, humiliated her at every turn. Now he dared to play the hero? Amelia rose for cross-examination. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with fire. "Mr. Harrington, you claim to want what's best for your wife and child. Tell me, how does threatening to make her regret it if she doesn't sign divorce papers fit into that?" Nathan froze for half a second before laughing dismissively. "That's absurd. I never said such a thing." Amelia pressed play on the recorder. Nathan's own voice filled the courtroom. "She'll sign eventually. If not, I'll make sure she regrets it. Both of them." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Reporters scrambling to jot down every word. Nathan's confident mask cracked, just slightly, before Corbin objected furiously. The judge called for order. Genevieve's pulse quickened. For the first time, the truth had cut through Nathan's lies. Hope flickered. But as she glanced across the aisle, Sienna leaned toward Nathan, whispering something that made his eyes darken with rage. And Genevieve realized, with a chill down her spine, Nathan wasn't beaten yet. He was about to strike back harder than ever. The courtroom still buzzed with murmurs after the recorder played Nathan's threatening words. Judge Thompson banged the gavel for order, his eyes narrowing at the billionaire seated smugly in the witness chair. For the first time, Nathan's armor of confidence showed cracks. Amelia leaned toward Genevieve, whispering, "It's time. Are you ready?" Genevieve's pulse thundered in her ears. Her hand brushed over the envelope in her bag, a document Nathan had sworn no longer existed. For months she had hidden it away, terrified it wasn't enough, terrified of Nathan's wrath if he discovered she had kept it. But now was the moment. Amelia stood, her heels clicking with authority. "Your Honor," she began, "while the defense argues that Mrs. Harrington is unstable and financially dependent, we have evidence to the contrary." She turned, nodding to Genevieve. "Evidence that Nathan Harrington himself signed." Gasps rippled through the courtroom as Genevieve rose, her belly prominent, her movements slow but steady. She handed the sealed envelope to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. "What is this?" Judge Thompson asked. Amelia's voice rang clear. "The original prenuptial agreement, signed by both parties before their marriage. In it, Mr. Harrington explicitly guaranteed that in the event of divorce, Mrs. Harrington retains full rights to half of his assets as well as custody of any children." The room exploded in whispers. Reporters leaned forward, pens scratching furiously. Nathan's face drained of color before flushing with fury. "That's impossible," he roared, slamming his fist on the table. "I had it destroyed years ago." Amelia's lips curved in the faintest smile. "Apparently not." Judge Thompson examined the document carefully, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Harrington, this is your signature, is it not?" Nathan's attorney leapt to his feet. "Your Honor, we must question the authenticity of this." But the judge cut him off. "Quiet, Mr. Corbin. This is a notarized document, dated, stamped, and filed. If you wish to dispute it, you'll need far more than baseless objections." Genevieve sat slowly, her heart hammering. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of power shift in her direction. Nathan's glare burned into her, a silent promise of retaliation, but she held his gaze. "You don't own me anymore," she thought. Amelia continued, her voice firm. "This document not only secures my client's financial rights, but also proves Nathan Harrington's deliberate attempt to defraud the court by hiding its existence. That is criminal behavior." The judge's gavel slammed down again. "If that is proven, Mr. Harrington, you will face charges far beyond this divorce case." The silence that followed was electric. Sienna shifted uneasily beside Nathan, her face paling. The golden future she had envisioned at his side now seemed less certain. She whispered something, but Nathan shoved her hand away, his fury barely contained. Genevieve exhaled shakily, clutching Amelia's hand beneath the table. For the first time in this nightmare, the courtroom wasn't laughing at her, wasn't doubting her sanity. For the first time, they were looking at Nathan. But Amelia's expression remained cautious. She leaned close and whispered, "This is only the first step. Don't celebrate yet. Nathan won't take this lying down." Genevieve nodded, her courage bolstered, but deep down she felt the tremor of fear. She knew Amelia was right. Nathan was a man who thrived on control, and nothing was more dangerous than a man who realized he was losing it. As the gavel struck again, the judge announced a recess. The courtroom emptied, reporters rushing to file their stories. Genevieve remained seated, her hand protectively over her child, her heart pounding with a mixture of hope and dread. And in the hallway outside, Nathan's phone buzzed with a new message from a private investigator. "She won this round. Shall we move to the next phase?" Nathan's reply came instantly. "Do it, no matter the cost." The recess ended, and the courtroom filled once more with a heavy, electric tension. Genevieve sat straighter than before, her nerves raw but her spirit steadied by Amelia's quiet presence. Across the aisle, Nathan seethed, his jaw locked tight. His empire was beginning to crumble, and he knew it. But Sienna Moore wasn't about to watch her golden ticket slip away. As the judge called the court back into session, Nathan's attorney rose with a triumphant smirk. "Your Honor, the defense would like to call a witness to testify on behalf of Mr. Harrington." The doors opened, and Sienna stepped forward. Her heels clicked against the marble floor, each step a declaration of war. She looked every inch the picture of poise. her hair gleaming, her designer dress immaculate, her expression dripping with rehearsed sorrow. Genevieve's stomach turned. She knew what was coming, but nothing could prepare her for the venom Sienna was about to unleash. "Miss Moore," the attorney began, "how long have you known Mr. Harrington?" Sienna folded her hands delicately in her lap, her voice trembling with just the right amount of faux vulnerability. "Almost 3 years. We became close after I started working as a consultant for one of his charity projects." "And during that time, what did you observe about his marriage?" Sienna's eyes glistened with manufactured tears. "I saw a man desperate to save his wife, and a woman who refused to be saved." She paused for dramatic effect, glancing briefly at Genevieve. Genevieve was unstable. She lashed out at Nathan constantly, accused him of cheating long before I ever entered the picture. I tried to encourage him to stay, to be patient, but there were nights. Her voice cracked. Nights I feared for his safety. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Reporters scribbled furiously, capturing every damning word. Genevieve shook her head in disbelief, her throat tight with fury. Lies, all lies. And what about her pregnancy? The attorney pressed. Sienna hesitated just long enough to make it look painful. "I don't want to speak ill of a mother-to-be, but Genevieve doesn't care for her child. I've seen her drinking wine late at night, ignoring doctor's orders. Nathan begged her to take better care of herself, but she wouldn't listen." A stunned silence filled the room, broken only by murmurs of shock. The trap was set. Sienna's lies weren't just about Genevieve. They were designed to strike at the heart of her motherhood. Tears burned Genevieve's eyes, but Amelia squeezed her hand firmly, grounding her. "Stay calm," Amelia whispered. "We'll dismantle this." But Sienna wasn't finished. She dabbed at her eyes with a silk handkerchief, her voice rising in a crescendo of false sincerity. "I came forward today because Nathan can't bring himself to say these things. He still loves her, despite everything. But someone has to protect the baby, and if Genevieve won't, then I will." The courtroom erupted in whispers. To the untrained eye, Sienna looked like the perfect savior, selfless, caring, stepping in where the mother had failed. Genevieve's nails dug into her palms. Rage coursed through her veins, but she stayed silent, knowing Amelia would have her chance. Judge Thompson finally banged his gavel. "Order in the court." Amelia rose slowly, her face a mask of controlled fury. "Your Honor, we intend to cross-examine Miss Moore, and when we do, the truth will come out." But as Amelia prepared her first question, Nathan leaned back in his chair, a sinister smile playing on his lips. He had unleashed Sienna like a weapon, and for the moment, the tide was turning. And then Amelia's phone buzzed on the table, a message that made her eyes widen in shock. She looked at Genevieve and whispered, "Everything is about to change." The courtroom was buzzing with energy after Sienna's performance on the stand. Reporters whispered among themselves, already crafting headlines about the unstable wife and the selfless mistress. Nathan's smirk radiated victory, as though the judge had already handed him the win. But Amelia Reed wasn't rattled. She stood tall, her voice calm but cutting. "Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to cross-examine Ms. Moore." Judge Thompson gave a curt nod. "Proceed." Amelia stepped closer to the witness stand, her eyes fixed on Sienna like a predator circling its prey. "Miss Moore, you claim that my client has been drinking alcohol during her pregnancy. Do you have proof?" Sienna hesitated, just a fraction too long, then forced a smile. "I saw her myself. That should be proof enough." "Interesting," Amelia said smoothly, pacing slowly. "Because according to her medical records, which are verified by her physician, Genevieve has maintained perfect compliance with every prenatal instruction. No alcohol, no neglect. In fact, her doctor describes her as meticulous in her care for her unborn child." Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Sienna's smile faltered. Amelia pressed on. "So tell me, Miss Moore, were you lying to this court just now, or are you suggesting the medical records were fabricated by her doctor?" Sienna's jaw tightened. "Doctors can be wrong. Doctors can be wrong," Amelia repeated, her voice laced with disbelief. "But videos don't lie." With a signal, Amelia's assistant rolled in a monitor. The screen flickered to life and the courtroom fell silent. The video played, grainy but clear enough. Nathan and Sienna appeared on screen, captured by the hidden camera Genevieve had planted. They were in the very study where Sienna had once caught Genevieve snooping. The audio crackled, then sharpened. Nathan's voice. "She'll sign eventually. If not, I'll make sure she regrets it. Both of them." Sienna's voice followed, smooth and mocking. "Don't worry, Nathan. Once she's out of the way, we'll raise the baby ourselves. She's too weak to survive this." Gasps filled the courtroom. The sound of pens scratching across paper was drowned out by the sheer weight of the revelation. Genevieve's eyes filled with tears, not of despair, but of vindication. The truth was finally seeing the light. Nathan shot to his feet, his face red with fury. "That's illegal. That recording is inadmissible." Judge Thompson's gavel slammed down. "Sit down, Mr. Harrington. The court will decide what's admissible." He turned sharply toward Sienna. "Miss Moore, would you like to explain these words?" Sienna's face drained of color. Her carefully constructed mask shattered. She stammered. "I was taken out of context." Amelia's voice cut her off like a blade. "Out of context? You just told this court you were here to protect the baby. Yet in this video, you clearly plot with Mr. Harrington to take the child from its mother. Which version of you should we believe? Miss Moore? The saint you pretended to be on this stand, or the conspirator we just watched on tape?" The silence was deafening. Even the reporters stopped writing, hanging on every word. Sienna clutched the edge of the witness stand, her breathing shallow. For the first time, she looked trapped. Nathan glared at her, his eyes blazing with betrayal. Judge Thompson leaned back, his expression grave. "This court will take a recess to review this evidence in detail. But I will say this now, Miss Moore, you are on very thin ice." The gavel struck, and the courtroom erupted in chaos. Reporters scrambled for the exits, cameras flashing. Amelia turned to Genevieve, her voice low. "We've turned the tide. But brace yourself. Nathan won't go down quietly." Genevieve nodded, her hand over her belly. She felt stronger than she had in months, but also more aware than ever of the storm still brewing. And outside the courthouse, a black SUV idled with its engine running. Inside sat Nathan's private investigator, watching Genevieve with cold, calculated eyes. He wasn't there to report anymore. He was there to act. The courthouse steps were swarming with reporters, cameras flashing as Genevieve and Amelia emerged into the crisp afternoon air. Questions flew like arrows. "Mrs. Harrington, how do you respond to the video? Do you fear for your safety? Is this the end of Nathan Harrington's empire?" Genevieve kept her chin high, though her pulse thundered. Amelia guided her through the chaos, shielding her from the aggressive swarm. For the first time, the public seemed to be on her side. The narrative was shifting. But the shift came with danger. Across the street, the black SUV idled. The private investigator, a man with a hard jaw and colder eyes, spoke into his earpiece. "Target is leaving now. Proceed on my signal." Genevieve reached the car waiting for her. The driver, arranged by Amelia's firm, opened the door. But before she could step inside, a hand gripped her arm like iron. "Ma'am, this way," a man said, flashing what looked like a security badge. His grip tightened, pulling her toward a different black vehicle parked at the curb. Genevieve's instincts screamed. "Let me go," she cried, clutching her belly with her free hand. Panic surged as another man appeared, blocking Amelia's path. Amelia shoved forward, her voice sharp. "She's not going anywhere with you. Show me proper credentials." The men ignored her. The first tried to force Genevieve toward the van, his expression flat, professional. To them, she wasn't a woman. She was a job. "Help!" Genevieve shouted, struggling. Her heart pounded, fear coursing through her veins. She felt the baby shift inside her, the pressure unbearable. Just then, chaos erupted. A bystander filming the scene on their phone yelled, "They're trying to take her!" Within seconds, a crowd formed, people shouting, pulling out their cameras. The kidnappers hesitated, the cover of anonymity slipping. Amelia lunged, grabbing Genevieve's arm and yanking her back with surprising strength. "Run!" she hissed. Genevieve stumbled into Amelia's car as the driver floored the gas. The kidnappers cursed, retreating toward their SUV as the crowd surged, snapping photos and videos. Tires screeched as both vehicles sped off in opposite directions. Inside the car, Genevieve was shaking, clutching her stomach. He tried to take me," she whispered, her voice broken. Amelia's jaw was tight, her hands trembling as she dialed her phone. "That wasn't a random attack. That was Nathan. He's escalating. He knows he's losing in court, so now he's trying to control you the only way he knows how, through fear." Genevieve's tears streamed silently. What if he had succeeded? What if? Amelia cut her off, her voice fierce. He didn't, and he won't. You're not alone, Genevieve. He underestimates you, and he underestimates me. The car swerved through traffic, finally losing sight of the SUV. The driver pulled into a secure underground garage beneath Amelia's office building. As the doors clanged shut behind them, a fragile sense of safety settled in. But Genevieve knew safety was temporary. Nathan wouldn't stop until he had destroyed her. Or until she destroyed him. She leaned back, exhausted, whispering to her unborn child, "I won't let him take you. I swear it." Amelia placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her. "Then, it's time we go on the offensive. If Nathan wants a war, we'll give him one." Genevieve met her friend's eyes, resolve igniting in her chest. She had survived boiling water, humiliation, lies, and now an attempt to steal her freedom. And as she exhaled, steadying herself, she had no idea that Nathan's next move wouldn't just target her, but her baby. The dim light of Amelia's office barely chased away the shadows of fear that clung to Genevieve. She sat curled on the leather sofa, one hand on her belly, the other clutching a glass of water she hadn't touched. Amelia was on the phone, her voice clipped as she spoke to law enforcement, demanding an investigation into the attempted abduction. When Amelia hung up, her expression was grave. "They'll look into it, but Nathan's money buys silence. We can't rely on the police. We have to protect you ourselves." Genevieve nodded weakly, but deep inside, a fire was building. She had tolerated humiliation, endured violence, and barely escaped being kidnapped. Now, the thought of her baby in Nathan's crosshairs made her blood run cold. Her phone buzzed on the table. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. "You think you can win? You won't even keep the baby." Genevieve's breath hitched, the phone slipping from her hand. "Amelia," she whispered, her voice trembling. "He's threatening the baby." Amelia's jaw tightened. "Then this is it. He's crossed the line. From this moment on, we stop playing defense, we take the fight straight to him." But Nathan wasn't done. The next day, as Genevieve left a prenatal appointment, she noticed a familiar face lingering by the clinic's entrance, one of Nathan's former drivers. He smiled coldly. "Mr. Harrington sends his regards. Stress isn't good for a baby, you know. Too much of it, and accidents happen." Her blood froze. She hurried to her car, locking the doors, her heart hammering. She knew the message wasn't just words, it was a promise. That night, Genevieve sat in the nursery, staring at the tiny crib, her hand trembling over a soft blanket. Tears streamed down her cheeks. For so long she had endured Nathan's cruelty in silence, thinking she could survive anything. But this wasn't about her anymore. This was about her child's right to live free of his grip. She whispered fiercely to the quiet room, "You won't touch my baby. I won't let you." Across the city, Nathan sat in his penthouse suite, sipping expensive scotch while Sienna draped herself over the couch. "She's cracking," he muttered. "One more push, and she'll break. The baby will be my leverage, and when she gives up, I'll have everything." Sienna tilted her head, uneasy. "Nathan, what if she doesn't break? What if she fights harder?" Nathan sneered, his eyes dark. "Then I'll make sure she has nothing left to fight with." Back in Amelia's office, Genevieve slammed the threatening message on the desk. "I'm done hiding," she said, her voice shaking but fierce. "He's coming after my child, Amelia. I can't just defend myself. I have to destroy him. Completely." Amelia studied her, then nodded slowly. "Good. That's the fire we need. Because I've been holding something back. Something that could end him once and for all." Genevieve's heart raced. "What is it?" Amelia opened a locked drawer and pulled out a thick folder. "Proof of Nathan's offshore laundering and ties to a criminal network. If we drop this bomb in court, not only will you get custody, you'll send him to prison for a very long time." Genevieve's breath caught. Hope and fear collided in her chest. "Then let's do it." Amelia leaned forward, her tone deadly serious. "Once we use this, there's no going back. He'll fight like a cornered animal." And as Genevieve nodded, ready at last, neither of them realized that Nathan had already planted a spy in Amelia's office, listening to every word. Amelia prided herself on having a tight, trusted circle. Her legal team was small by design, smart, loyal, and discreet. They were the sort of people who moved like shadows, collecting documents, making calls, and cleaning up loose ends so her clients could live to fight another day. She never expected the enemy to be wearing one of her own faces. Late that night, as Genevieve slept fitfully in a safe house, Amelia reviewed the final exhibits in the folder that would blow Nathan Harrington's empire apart. Offshore ledgers, illicit wire transfers, emails that linked senior executives to shell companies. It was the kind of evidence that would send shockwaves through the city and into prison cells. She felt the weight of it. This was the lever they would use to pry the Harrington grip off her client's life. Her junior paralegal, Darren Cole, hovered in the doorway with his tablet, eyes too bright, voice too eager. He'd been a part of the team for barely a year, efficient, quietly ambitious, the kind of person who thanked mentors with slightly too much fervor. Amelia had promoted him for his work ethic. She had not seen the quicksilver of greed under his surface. "You should get some rest," Darren said, but his fingers tapped his tablet in a nervous rhythm that made Amelia pause. "I can't," she admitted. "Not yet. We file first thing tomorrow." Darren swallowed. "Everyone's exhausted. Maybe we should delay, make sure every I's dotted." Amelia nodded. She trusted him. Then, without warning, Darren's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, and the expression that crossed his face was not exhaustion, it was calculation. He shifted, suddenly defensive. "You okay?" Amelia asked. He hesitated then, like a bad ripple breaking in still water. He lied. "Yeah, just family stuff." Amelia went back to the folder, but an unease settled in her gut. She had a lawyer's instinct for inconsistencies. She asked a small question about an obscure file, something Darren had handled last week. He fumbled, answered wrong, then correct. The moment passed, but the seed of doubt had been planted. At dawn, the exhibit was ready. Amelia walked Genevieve through the plan once more. File the motion, present the financial proof, and let the court do the rest. They moved with careful choreography. Nobody else needed to know the full scale. The fewer people who knew, the safer they were. But Nathan was not a man who waited for chance. He engineered it. By mid-morning, as Amelia's assistant uploaded documents to a secure server, a flurry of messages began to ping across screens in the Harrington camp. Names and account numbers. Everything Amelia had spent sleepless nights compiling suddenly appeared on a private channel used by Nathan's inner circle. Amelia's inbox filled with notifications. She frowned, checking logs, tracing IPs. Her stomach dropped as she realized the impossible. The secure server had been breached from within Amelia's firm. The trail led straight to Darren. She confronted him in a glass-walled conference room, the city a indifferent skyline beyond. "Did you leak the files?" she asked, voice quiet but steel-edged. Darren's shoulders sagged. For a heartbeat, he looked like a man who'd been caught. Then he smiled, not contrite, but relieved. "You don't understand how this works, Amelia. Nathan's money, his network, offers opportunities. I did what I had to do. You don't get to crusade and keep your staff naive about economics." "You sold your ethics for a payoff," Amelia said, incredulous. "Do you know what you just did? You put my client in danger. You put a pregnant woman at risk." His eyes flicked to hers, cold. "I put my family first, that's all." By noon, Nathan had the ammunition he needed. Every inch of their strategy, timestamps, drafts, even Amelia's private notes about witness vulnerabilities. He moved fast. His lawyers filed emergency motions accusing Amelia's firm of fabricating evidence, claiming chain of custody violations and fraud. The press smelled the scandal, and headlines twisted the narrative. Lawyer's firm accused of evidence tampering in high-profile divorce case. Genevieve watched, numb, as the foundation they had built shattered into dust overnight. Amelia's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Calls from partners, security alerts, frantic messages from people who felt betrayed and frightened. Amelia pressed her palms to her eyes, fury and shame colliding. "This was Darren," she told Genevieve. "He's the leak. He sold us." Genevieve felt the room tilt. The betrayal wasn't just strategic, it felt personal, intimate, like a second stabbing. The very people sworn to shield her had cracked. Outside, in the Harrington suite, Nathan smiled as he skimmed the new filings. He had what he needed, not just to discredit the case, but to plant doubt in every judge, every juror, every reporter. And as Amelia stared at the cascading emails, a new alert popped up on her screen. An anonymous file had been uploaded to a public server. Every name, every bank account, every secret, available to anyone with an internet connection. The leak had just gone global. The morning headlines didn't just report the story. They devoured it. Screens across New York lit up with the same breaking banner. Harrington offshore empire exposed. Millions in fraudulent assets revealed. From Wall Street to Washington, the reaction was instantaneous. Bankers canceled meetings. Politicians who once courted Nathan's donations scrambled to distance themselves. Overnight, the titan of industry had become a pariah. In the safe house, Genevieve clutched her coffee cup as she watched the news unfold. Amelia stood beside her, arms crossed tightly. "This wasn't our release," Amelia muttered. "Someone dumped everything online. Raw files, names, transactions, it's all there. We've lost control of the narrative." Genevieve's heart pounded. "But it's true, isn't it? Every name, every number, it's all Nathan's crimes." "Yes," Amelia admitted, "but truth isn't enough. If he spins this as a smear campaign, he can still twist it, and thanks to Darren, he has enough to claim we fabricated the evidence." Meanwhile, in Nathan's penthouse, the atmosphere was chaos. Lawyers shouted into phones, advisors fled with boxes of documents, and Sienna watched from the corner, pale and silent. Nathan paced like a caged beast, fury radiating off him. "They think they can destroy me with a leak?" he roared, slamming his fist on the marble counter. "This isn't the end. It's war. And when I win, I'll burn Genevieve to ashes." But Nathan underestimated how quickly power shifts when fear replaces respect. Investors froze his accounts. Shareholders demanded answers. Protesters gathered outside Harrington Industries with signs reading, "Thief" and "Justice for Genevieve." Back at the safe house, Amelia's phone buzzed with an encrypted message. She read it twice, then handed it to Genevieve. "You're not alone anymore. This is from a journalist at the Sentinel. They want to meet. They've been investigating Nathan for years, and now with this leak, they're ready to help bring him down." Genevieve hesitated. She had trusted too many people before and paid the price. But then she remembered Nathan's message, the one that threatened her baby. She couldn't afford silence. "Set the meeting," she said firmly. That evening, in a dim cafe tucked between skyscrapers, Genevieve and Amelia met with investigative reporter Michael Reyes. His eyes were sharp, his voice steady. He slid a flash drive across the table. "This is bigger than you know," Michael said. "Nathan wasn't just hiding money. He was laundering for cartels, bribing officials overseas. We've traced payments tied to arms deals. If this goes public, it won't just be a divorce case. It'll be international crime." Genevieve's hands trembled as she took the drive. "Then we release it?" Michael shook his head. "Not yet. If you go too early, Nathan will spin it again. But if you wait, let the investigations build. The evidence will bury him." Genevieve exhaled slowly. Waiting meant more danger, but it also meant justice would be undeniable. Across town, Nathan sat in the dark, watching his empire crumble on live television. For the first time, true fear flickered in his eyes. Sienna touched his arm. "Nathan, maybe we should leave the country. Lay low." Nathan's jaw clenched. "Leave? No. Genevieve thinks she's winning. But before this is over, I'll take from her what she treasures most." And as the city buzzed with the fallout of the leak, Nathan dialed a number that would unleash his deadliest move yet, an attack that would target Genevieve not in court, but in blood. Night blanketed the city, but Genevieve's safe house didn't feel safe anymore. Every creak of the floorboards made her flinch. Every passing car outside sent a chill down her spine. She sat by the window, hand resting on her swollen belly, whispering soft promises to her unborn child. "I'll keep you safe. I'll never let him win." Amelia moved through the room, restless, her phone glued to her hand. The Sentinel is prepping their story. International investigators are circling Nathan. He's cornered Genevieve. That makes him more dangerous than ever. As if on cue, headlights swept across the safe house window. The driver they trusted was due in the morning. This wasn't him. Amelia stiffened. "Stay back," she ordered, drawing the curtains. Moments later, the power cut. The house plunged into darkness. Genevieve's pulse spiked. "Amelia?" "Downstairs now," Amelia barked, pulling her toward the panic room hidden behind the basement wall. But before they could reach it, the back door exploded inward. Two masked men stormed in, guns raised, their movements precise and merciless. "Go!" Amelia shoved Genevieve behind the kitchen island as bullets shattered the cabinets. The roar of gunfire filled the house, plaster raining down like dust. Genevieve's heart raced. Her only thought was the tiny life inside her. The first intruder advanced, barking into his earpiece. "Target in sight. Secure and extract." Genevieve's breath caught. Extract. Nathan hadn't just sent them to scare her. He had sent them to take her. Amelia grabbed a heavy lamp, swinging it with brutal force into the man's face. He crumpled, but the second intruder lunged, seizing Genevieve's arm. She screamed, fighting with every ounce of strength, nails clawing, feet kicking. "You're coming with us," the man growled, dragging her toward the door. Her belly pressed painfully against his grip, and terror surged through her. She twisted, biting his hand until he cursed and shoved her hard against the wall. Pain radiated through her body, but she forced herself back up, clutching her stomach. Blue and red lights suddenly flooded the windows. Sirens wailed outside. The intruders froze, then bolted, vanishing into the night before the first officers stormed inside. Genevieve collapsed into Amelia's arms, shaking uncontrollably. Her breaths came in gasps, fear clawing at her chest. "He tried to take me," she whispered, eyes wide with horror. "He'll never stop," not until her voice broke. Amelia held her tightly, her own hands trembling. "We'll make him stop, I swear it." "But Genevieve, you need to understand. This wasn't just intimidation. This was an assassination attempt. If the police hadn't arrived when they did." Genevieve clutched her belly, tears streaking down her face. The reality settled in like ice. Nathan wasn't waiting for court. He wasn't waiting for public opinion. He was trying to erase her, body and soul, before she could deliver the final blow. Outside, flashing lights painted the night, officers securing the perimeter. One detective approached Amelia, his face grim. "These weren't amateurs. Whoever sent them wanted it clean, fast, untraceable. You need to move her again. He'll try again." Genevieve's voice hardened, her tears drying into steel. "No, I won't run anymore. If Nathan wants me gone, then he'll have to face me in the open, and this time I'll be the one striking first." But what Genevieve didn't see was the unmarked car parked down the block. Inside, Nathan watched through binoculars, his lips curling into a cruel smile. He whispered into his phone, "She survived tonight. She won't survive the next." The courthouse overflowed with tension on the morning of the final hearing. Reporters packed the steps, cameras flashing like lightning storms. Protesters held signs demanding justice, their chants echoing through the marble halls. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Everyone knew today would decide the fate of Nathan Harrington. Genevieve sat tall at the plaintiff's table, a quiet strength radiating from her. Her pregnancy had progressed further, her body weary but her spirit unbreakable. Amelia sat beside her, eyes sharp, folders stacked like weapons. Across the aisle, Nathan strode in, flanked by his legal army. His face was a mask of arrogance, but beneath it, shadows of desperation lingered. The judge entered, gavel striking sharply. "Court is in session." Amelia stood first, her voice calm but commanding. "Your Honor, over the past weeks, we've shown the court threats, lies, and violence. But today, we present irrefutable proof of Mr. Harrington's criminal empire." She gestured to the screen at the front. The monitor flickered alive. Bank records, offshore accounts, emails linking Nathan to money laundering, bribery, and racketeering. Each slide painted a picture of corruption too vast to ignore. The courtroom murmured, shock rippling through the audience. Nathan's attorneys scrambled, shouting objections, but the judge silenced them with a glare. Then Amelia pressed play on the final clip. The hidden video from Nathan's study filled the room once again, his voice cold, venomous, confessing not just his intent to ruin Genevieve, but to take her baby. Nathan's face twisted in rage. He jumped to his feet. "This is entrapment. She's framing me. None of this is real." Before he could continue, another voice rang out from the back of the courtroom. Michael Reyes, the journalist from the Sentinel, stood holding a thick file. "Your Honor, the Sentinel has independently verified every single document and obtained corroborating evidence from international investigators. As of this morning, the Justice Department has opened a formal indictment against Nathan Harrington." The courtroom erupted. Gasps, whispers, reporters bolting for the exits to break the story. The judge's gavel thundered. "Order! Order in the court!" Nathan's mask shattered. He lunged across the table, pointing a trembling finger at Genevieve. You did this to me. After everything I gave you, you dare." His words were cut off as marshals surrounded him, cuffing his wrists. The sound of chains clicking shut was like a bell tolling the end of his empire. Genevieve's eyes filled with tears, not of fear this time, but of release. She whispered, "It's over." Nathan roared, struggling against the guards, his voice echoing through the chamber. "This isn't the end. You'll regret this." But no one listened. For the first time, the world wasn't looking at him with admiration. They were looking at him with contempt. Sienna, pale and trembling, tried to slip out of the courtroom unnoticed, but reporters swarmed her, shouting questions about her role in the conspiracy. Her glamorous facade crumbled under the weight of exposure. The judge spoke firmly. "Nathan Harrington, you are hereby remanded into custody pending trial for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy. And based on today's evidence, this court will also be forwarding charges of domestic abuse and attempted kidnapping." The gavel struck. Final. Absolute. Genevieve exhaled, her hand resting protectively on her belly. The baby kicked gently, as if sensing her relief. Amelia squeezed her hand, her voice soft but certain. "You won, Genevieve. You didn't just survive. You ended him." As Nathan was dragged from the courtroom, shouting curses that no longer had power, Genevieve closed her eyes. She saw not the fire of boiling water or the shadow of fear, but the light of freedom. And in that moment, Genevieve knew. Her child would be born into a world where Nathan Harrington's power had ended, and their lives, at last, could begin anew. So my dear friends, the story has finally come to an end. You're still here with me, right? If you've stayed until this very moment, it means something in Genevieve's journey has touched your heart in a real way. Maybe it's her courage, maybe it's her pain, or maybe it's the reminder that even when life breaks us, we can rise again. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's exactly what Genevieve discovered. She couldn't control Nathan's cruelty, but she could control how she chose to fight back, protect her child, and rebuild her life. And that lesson belongs to all of us. When we face betrayal, injustice, or loss, we still hold the power to choose dignity, resilience, and hope. So take this story as more than just drama. It's a mirror of our own struggles and our own healing. If her courage inspired you, let it fuel your own. And now, if you felt even a spark of strength tonight, please like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to our channel. Together, we heal, we grow, and we rise. Billionaire poured boiling water on pregnant wife in villa. She forced him into bankruptcy, revenge. The night was supposed to be quiet in the Harrington villa, but behind the marble walls and glittering chandeliers, a storm was brewing. Genevieve Harrington, 7 months pregnant, stood in the grand kitchen, holding her swollen belly as she tried to calm herself. She had spent years in silence, sacrificing her career and dreams for her husband, Nathan Harrington, the man everyone admired as a visionary billionaire. But tonight, that mask of success would shatter in the most violent way possible. Nathan entered the kitchen with a face twisted in anger. In his hand, he held divorce papers. His voice, cold and merciless, echoed off the high ceilings. "Sign them, Genevieve. You're nothing without me. The sooner you accept that, the easier it will be." Tears welled in her eyes, but she shook her head. "I won't sign away my child's future, Nathan. You can't strip us of everything." Her refusal lit a fire inside him. Nathan grabbed the kettle that had just finished boiling on the stove. Steam curled in the air, sharp and scalding. For a split second, Genevieve thought he was bluffing. But then, in a moment that would scar her life forever, he hurled the boiling water across the counter, splashing it toward her body and her unborn child. Her scream pierced the night, louder than the crashing of the ceramic cup she dropped. She stumbled back, clutching her belly, her skin burning, her heart racing with fear, not for herself, but for the fragile life inside her. And Nathan? He stood there without remorse, his chest heaving, his eyes cold. To him, this was just another show of power. To Genevieve, it was the moment she realized her marriage wasn't just broken. It was a battlefield, and survival was no longer a choice, but a necessity. Because that very night, as she lay on the floor of her villa, she swore one thing: Nathan Harrington would pay. And when she rose again, she would rise to destroy him completely. The ambulance lights faded into the night as Genevieve was rushed to the hospital. The scalding water had left angry red burns across her arm and shoulder. But the deeper wound was the fear clawing inside her chest. Every second, she prayed her unborn child was still safe. She lay on the sterile hospital bed, The rhythmic beeping of the monitor, the only reminder that she and her baby were still alive. A nurse whispered softly, "You're lucky, the burns weren't closer to your belly. Your baby's heartbeat is strong." Relief washed over her, but only for a moment. Because she knew this wasn't the first time Nathan had hurt her, and if she didn't stop him, it wouldn't be the last. For years, Genevieve had endured in silence. She remembered the early days of their marriage, when Nathan was charming, when he held her hand and promised the world. Back then, she had believed him. She left her interior design career behind, convinced that supporting his empire would be enough. She played the role of the perfect wife, hosting dinner parties, smiling at the cameras, and hiding the bruises that no one was supposed to see. Behind closed doors, the truth was darker. Nathan's temper was unpredictable, explosive. A misplaced word could earn her a cruel insult. A forgotten appointment could lead to a shove against the wall. Each time he apologized, showering her with gifts and sweet words. And each time Genevieve forgave him, clinging to the hope that the man she once loved was still there. But pregnancy had changed everything. With a baby on the way, Nathan no longer bothered to pretend. His cruelty grew bolder. His mistress, Sienna, flaunted more openly, even answering his phone when Genevieve called. The humiliation cut deeper than any wound, and still she stayed quiet. Why? Because she believed silence was safer. Because she thought protecting her child meant enduring. Because society taught her that leaving a powerful man like Nathan was impossible. Now, lying in the hospital, her skin burning and her heart breaking, she finally understood the truth. Silence had only made her weaker. If she wanted to protect her child, she had to stop being afraid. The door creaked open. Nathan stepped in, immaculate in his tailored suit, carrying a bouquet of roses as if he were a devoted husband. "I'm glad you're awake," he said smoothly. "Doctors say you'll recover. Now, let's be reasonable. Sign the divorce papers, and I'll make sure you get a monthly allowance. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Her hands trembled, but not from fear this time. Anger coursed through her veins. She had nearly lost her baby tonight, and here he was, treating her like a disposable accessory. Genevieve looked him in the eye for the first time in months. "No, Nathan, I won't sign." His jaw tightened. For a moment the mask of charm slipped, revealing the monster underneath. He leaned in close, his whisper like venom. "Then you'll regret it? Both of you." His eyes dropped to her swollen belly, and the threat chilled her blood. When he left, the room fell silent again, but Genevieve's mind was racing. This wasn't just about saving herself anymore. It was about protecting her child from a man who would rather destroy than love. And that was the moment she realized. She couldn't survive alone. She needed an ally. Someone strong enough to stand against Nathan's empire. Someone who could turn the tide. Little did she know, that ally was already on her way. And when she arrived, everything would change. The morning after her hospital stay, Genevieve returned to the Harrington villa. The mansion, once a symbol of elegance, now felt like a gilded prison. The burn marks on her arm were hidden under her blouse, but the sting remained, both on her skin and in her soul. She had barely crossed the threshold when she heard laughter echoing from the living room. There, sprawled across the Italian leather sofa, was Sienna Moore. The young woman looked entirely at ease, sipping champagne as though she were the lady of the house. Her sleek red dress clung to her like armor, and her smug smile cut through Genevieve like a blade. Nathan stood beside her, arm draped casually over the backrest, his phone buzzing with congratulatory messages from colleagues. "Genevieve," Nathan said, his tone dripping with mock politeness, "you're home. I was worried you might stay in the hospital a little longer. But you see, Sienna insisted on cheering me up after such unpleasantness last night." Sienna smirked, her eyes locking with Genevieve's swollen belly. Nathan needs a woman who can keep up with him, not someone who hides behind pity and excuses. The words hit harder than any blow. For a moment, Genevieve wanted to scream, to fight back, but she steadied herself. She couldn't let them see her break. Not anymore. Instead, she walked past them silently, holding her head high, but every step deepened the wound in her heart. Upstairs, she sat on the edge of her bed, trembling with rage. Her child shifted within her, a reminder of the fragile life she was fighting for. She whispered softly, "I won't let him destroy us. I promise." Downstairs, Nathan and Sienna plotted openly, as if Genevieve no longer existed. Once she signs the papers, Sienna purred, you'll be free. And with her out of the picture, no one will question us. Your investors adore me already. Nathan chuckled darkly. She'll have no choice. Without me, she's nothing. But Genevieve, listening from the stairwell, heard every word. And in that instant, something inside her hardened. She wasn't nothing. Not anymore. That evening, Nathan announced a gala at the Harrington estate to celebrate a new business deal. It will be the perfect night to introduce Sienna properly, he told his staff. The words echoed like thunder in Genevieve's ears. He wasn't just replacing her, he was her. The night of the gala arrived. Chandeliers glistened, guests in glittering gowns filled the ballroom, and reporters snapped photos of Nathan and Sienna as they descended the staircase like royalty. Genevieve stood in the shadows at the edge of the room, her hand on her belly, watching the spectacle unfold. The whispers began almost instantly. Isn't that his wife over there? But he's with the mistress. Poor woman. Humiliation washed over her, but she refused to cry. She had spent too many years in silence. Tonight she would endure the shame, because soon she would turn it into fire. As the orchestra played, Nathan raised a glass to toast his new future. His voice rang with pride, while Sienna clung to him, radiant under the spotlight. Genevieve's stomach churned, but her resolve grew stronger with every second. And just as the applause filled the hall, she felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. She turned and saw a face from her past. A face that could change everything. The gala ended in a blur of champagne and forced smiles. Guests left with gossip on their lips, whispering about the billionaire flaunting his mistress, while his pregnant wife faded into the background. But for Genevieve, the night was more than humiliation. It was a test of endurance. Every glance, every whisper, every smirk from Sienna felt like another dagger in her chest. She retreated to the quiet of the upstairs corridor, her mind spinning. That familiar face from her past, the woman who had tapped her shoulder, lingered in her thoughts. Amelia Reed, her old college friend, now a well-respected attorney. Amelia had whispered just 2 words before slipping away. Call me. It wasn't just an offer of comfort, it was a lifeline. But before Genevieve could even process the possibility of hope, Nathan stormed into their bedroom later that night, his anger simmering. You embarrassed me tonight, he spat, slamming the door so hard the chandelier rattled. Genevieve froze, clutching her belly. I didn't say a word. You didn't have to, he snapped. Your presence alone is a humiliation. Do you know how many investors asked me why you were still here? Why you haven't signed the papers? I won't, she whispered firmly, though her voice shook. Not when our child's future is at stake. The words pushed him over the edge. In a blind fury, Nathan shoved a glass vase from the nightstand, shattering it against the wall. Shards flew across the carpet, and Genevieve stumbled back, the sudden motion sending a sharp pain rippling through her abdomen. She gasped, doubling over, her hands cradling her stomach. Nathan froze for a split second, but instead of helping, he sneered. Don't be dramatic, you'll be fine. Just remember, you brought this on yourself. With that, he stormed out, leaving her trembling in agony. Moments later, Genevieve collapsed to her knees, the pain intensifying. Panic surged through her as she felt a warm trickle down her leg. No, not now, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. She crawled to reach her phone on the dresser, her breath coming in ragged gasps. When the paramedics arrived, they found her pale and shaking, her voice weak as she begged them to save her baby. The ambulance raced through the city, sirens cutting through the night. Every bump in the road a reminder of how fragile life had become. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly. Genevieve lay on the gurney, staring at the ceiling lights flashing above her, praying with everything she had left. Please, God, please don't take my baby. Hours passed before the doctor finally returned. The baby's still alive, he said gently. Relief flooded Genevieve, but the doctor's tone grew serious. You need rest. Any more stress like this, and the consequences could be irreversible. Do you understand? She nodded, but her heart was heavy. She knew Nathan wasn't going to change. If anything, he was becoming more dangerous. If she stayed, her child might not survive. Lying there, weak but resolute, Genevieve whispered to herself, This ends now. I can't fight him alone. I need help. Her mind flashed back to Amelia's steady gaze at the gala, a friend she hadn't seen in years, a lawyer with the power to change everything. And at that moment, Genevieve realized the next move she made could decide not only her future, but her child's survival. And she was ready to make it.